Welcome to the explanation page by page of the TREC 1-4 Family Residential Contract. This is Ann LaCusta and I'm your broker, and this is going to be a quick bullet point summary of page 5 of this contract. Paragraph 9 is about the closing, and it begins with the closing date. It states very clearly, if either party fails to close the sale by the closing date, the non-defaulting party may exercise the remedies contained in paragraph 15. So we'll talk about that when we get to paragraph 15. Understand that at closing, the buyer and the seller both must show up to perform. So even if you believe the other party is not going to show up to close, if you want to do the right thing, your client, either the buyer or the seller, will show up to closing on the day stated on this contract or on an amendment so that your client has performed according to the contract. Let's look at 10, paragraph 10. This is about possession of the property. Seller shall deliver to buyer possession of the property in its present or required condition upon closing and funding. So particularly if the home is currently vacant, you're going to choose upon closing and funding. If your seller has somewhere else very easy that they're planning to move, then upon closing and funding. If this is a back-to-back closing and the seller needs proceeds from this home before buying another home, then in order to prevent this fire drill mentality that can happen, you may want to choose according to a temporary residential lease. That gives your seller an opportunity to get the proceeds from the sale and purchase another home. In today's kind of crazy mortgage real estate market, closings do get delayed. Closings do get slowed down, and so having this temporary residential lease will make sure that no one is homeless, no one is out on the street, everyone is prepared for a couple days delay after closing before possession is delivered. And there will be a video about the temporary residential lease form and how to fill it out. Make sure you also notice 10B, which says if there are any leases on the property, so if there's a tenant in the property or a mineral lease, that you need to provide a copy of that within 7 days after the effective date of this contract. Special provisions. There should rarely be anything written in special provisions. Special provisions are only for factual statements that your client wants to make. So it could be something like home to be professionally cleaned prior to move out or something like that. But very rare actually to have special provisions. Everything is normally covered in the contract or in an addendum. And then if we move down, we can look at 12. And I want to be sure that we take a moment and look at 12A 1B. Seller shall also not pay an amount to exceed this blank right here. This is very important. If you're writing an FHA, VA contract, the lender should provide you with this dollar amount. The lender should provide you with this dollar amount. If you just write in this blank $5,000, there is some possibility that your buyer client would not actually be able to use the full $5,000 in these ways that are spelled out here. If they cannot use it according to the contract, then the seller does not owe them that excess. So what actually ends up happening is the seller thinks, oh, okay, I'm giving them $5,000, and then at the last minute they only end up having to give them $4,800. And so your buyer lost $200 that the seller was willing to give them. So just make sure in 12A 1B, this blank right here, that you get that amount from the lender so that you are as close as possible to exactly what your buyer needs. And that is the end of this page.